Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Cheyenne and this is a pedicure video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about OPI repair mode, IBX, thin toenails, and doing a Dazzle Dry color on these toenails. So if you like that kind of thing, continue watching. So I soaked these feet for approximately 8 minutes and then I used some cling film and sprayed on some callus softener and then wrapped them in a hot towel. And I begin to work on the toenails. First, I use one of those long spoon type tools, and I looked over these toenails and I noticed my client had already trimmed them, so I'm not going to be doing too much trimming, although I am going to be using these nipper type tools to go into the sidewalls and clip out any small jagged edges that are in the sidewalls, not too deep, just where the free edge is. I clip out any extra little bits of toenails from the sidewalls because I don't want my client to be uncomfortable, especially after they've come for a relaxing pedicure. If they put their shoes on and there's a little bit of toenail in that sidewall, it's not going to feel good. I use this ingrown toenail file that gets into the sidewalls pretty easily, and I just use it to round out the corners and make sure that there aren't any extra pieces of toenail or dead skin inside the sidewalls. These tools are pretty common. Sometimes they come a little bit thicker and a little bit thinner. My preference is a thinner one, and I am using a staleks tool. After I've done all my manual work, I get my e-file out and I use one of these toenail bits that have a little bit of a grit at the edge, and I make sure to smooth out the free edge of the toenails even if they don't need to be cut. It's also an extra precaution to make sure that the client doesn't have any pointy edges of the free edge poking into their toes, and this client specifically experiences that with the grow out of their toenails usually in a few weeks, so I always make sure to have nice smooth edges. Again, if I see anything that looks a little bit jagged, I can always go in with my manual file and smooth it out and then continue on with the e-file. Sometimes I do that because it's a little bit easier to get into the crevices. After I've smoothed out the free edge of the nails, I lower my speed of my e-file and I go over the cuticle area and also help exfoliate some of the dead skin. Sometimes I'll use a unicorn style bit because it's easier to get into the sidewalls of the nail, but in most cases I can use this bit as well for exfoliating any dead skin and prepping the nails for polish. After I finish my work, I always make sure to spray the toenails with a little bit of water and give them a little bit of a wipe. And now I'm moving on to the soles of the feet. I always make sure to examine the soles of the feet of my client to see where I need to work the most and what tool I need to use specifically. For the majority of my work, I use a pododisc. In some areas that are a little bit harder to reach, I like to use the side of the pododisc, and then when the surface area is quite large that needs to be worked on, I use the entirety of the pododisc. And I tend to use a lower grit pododisc, and I just make sure that my speeds are accurate for what I need to do and the skin type of my client so I don't burn them. This client doesn't experience a lot of callus buildup, so it's pretty easy to go over the feet. Their primary concern is their toenails, which are quite thin, as I said before, and they tend to dig into the sides of their toes when the nails get a little bit longer. When there's a lot of skin buildup on the feet or when I'm changing bits, I always make sure to spray the foot and then I give it a wipe. I decided to use the footlogix paddle on this client because there's a little extra buildup and I didn't want to use a bit because I do usually use a lower grit bit. I wanted something sort of in between, and the footlogix paddle is good for this and it covers a lot of ground quite quickly, so I'm not wasting any time. When you use a paddle, it's important to always let the paddle do the work. If this paddle wasn't working while I was pressing gently, it probably would be time to replace it. Although this video is sped up and it does look like I'm aggressively filing, it's not the case. I'm actually doing it quite gently, and this is not causing any discomfort to the client, and the file is still good to use. I use a combination of footlogix foot mousse and some cuticle oil that I make to rub over the entirety of the foot for the next treatment. I use the 240 grit pododisc buffer from Staleks, and I go over the entirety of the foot with it and buff in the cuticle oil and footlogix foot mousse. I find that this buffs out any rough edges, it makes sure the client has nice silky soft feet, and it helps with product absorption. Now that the soles of the feet are finished, I am going to go back to the toenails. I spray them with water, and then I remove any excess oil that was on them from the treatment. Then with a very, very low speed, I just buff over the nails and buff some of the skin while I'm at it and get them ready for polish. I've never found polish or gel polish to lift, even though I soak the nails for 8 minutes in the beginning and I do use oil. I just make sure that the nails are really clean and they come out fine and they don't lift. Now to prepare the nails for OPI repair mode and IBX treatment, I remove any excess oil with some 99% alcohol. I apply the OPI repair mode and then I let it sit for a few minutes, and then as you can see, I am just removing it before I apply the IBX. OPI has a protocol for this repair mode serum. You can find it, I believe, on their YouTube channel. IBX is a professional nail strengthening system that also works by penetrating the nail and cross-linking the upmost layers, which I believe is what OPI repair mode does as well. I've been reading a little bit more about it. I also emailed OPI to ask for a little bit more of an explanation, because I believe they call it like Ultiplex or something, what they call their bond building system, and I'd really like to know a little bit more on like the science level, so hopefully they'll get back to me about that. The difference between OPI repair mode and IBX is that IBX needs gentle heat to penetrate the nail, and it also uses an LED light to cure. And there is a protocol to do it, so I suggest using training if you're a professional wanting to use this product. The training's free. I believe you can sign up on their website. And I just want to add that although the idea of these two serums are somewhat the same idea, they probably work differently on different areas. This client and I have been working together for a couple of years now, and their biggest problem was that their nails were so thin and flexible that they would eventually dig into the sidewalls of their toes and the sides of their toenails. The sides of their big toenails would always break off from pressure from being against the shoe. And then one day we decided to try IBX, and it was helpful. Just adding the repair mode lately to most of my services to just see if it really changes anything for the nails, and so far I really like it. It's been very helpful with my natural nail clients as well as my gel clients. I do believe that PI repair mode and IBX work slightly differently, so they can be used together with benefits. So after I've done the IBX protocol, I cleanse the nails and continue on with Dazzle Dry. For this system, you do need to warm up the base coat before you use it, especially in a colder climate. Otherwise, it will be too thick to bond to the nail and it will just peel off. Fortunately, for toenails, you only need one coat of the base coat. Just make sure that if you are doing this, you want to cover the entirety of the nail with the base coat, otherwise it will peel. And as I've said before, I really appreciate this air dry system because while I'm working on the next foot, the foot that I was previously working on will be dry and I'll be able to continue on with the color coat. After the base is fully dried, I'm putting on Checkmate, which is a light blue, quite sheer color, but after 3 coats it looks perfect, and it's not like nail polish when you put on 3 coats of a regular polish, you're waiting a very long time for it to dry. It will be dry in 5 minutes. And while you're working, it dries instantly pretty much. Especially on a hot day, you've got to work pretty fast. And I don't know if you caught that, but I didn't paint one of the toenails on the other toes, and I actually don't know why. Like, I don't think I messed up and was waiting for it to dry. I just think that I didn't do it, which is funny and weird. So I'm moving on to my second coat here, and I decided I didn't like the opacity, so I will continue on with a 3rd coat. And also paint this toenail that I decided not to paint. While I'm waiting for the layer to dry, I can always do a cleanup. It's quite fast to do toenails. Now I'm going on to my 3rd coat, which I think was a perfect opacity. And then on to the top coat. After the top coat, I set a timer for 5 minutes, I massage the client's feet, and everything's good to go. It really doesn't smudge. It is very unique, and I really appreciate this product. So if you haven't used Dazzle Dry for a pedicure, give it a try. It works really well. The nice thing about it, not only do they have really good colors, is that it's great for all nail types, so you won't run into some of the same issues you get with putting gel onto toenails that maybe don't take to gel so well. Plus, it's super easy to remove. Durable, long wearing. I can go on, but you guys know I already like Dazzle Dry. I always finish my polish surfaces with a little bit of my cuticle oil. And thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you like this video. Do you like pedicure videos? Do you have thick or thin toenails? I'll see you guys next time. Bye.